How are we doing, guys? Moose here. Welcome back to episode number 59 of our West Ham United career mode. As always, guys, thank you so much for all the support on this career mode, and we are going to do basically a Season 2 wrap-up. We've come to the end of Season 2 here, so we're going to take a look at just not only the Premier League, but also, the leagues around the world, how they fared, Champions League, etc. We're going to see how the Premier League did. We're also going to take a look at our team as a whole, how the individual players did, and stick around to the end of the episode because we will have a vote. We're going to have 3 nominees for Goal of the Season because our next episode, episode 60, will be the awards for Season 2. And, of course, I want your input on Goal of the Season. What I'd also like you to do, once we go through the players here towards the end of the episode, leave a comment who your fans' player of the season is. Of course, we'll have our Moose's Mighty Hammer player of the season from all the votes that take place every game, of course. But I want to hear who you guys thought the player of the season was. So let me know who your fans' player of the season was in the comments, in addition to voting for Goal of the Season. But we're going to take a look first here at the Premier League. Of course, we look at the table, and of course, we did finish second position, just 3 points behind champions Chelsea. Not a bad season in the slightest. 32 goals against. We had the best defensive record in the Premier League. Second best in terms of goals for, just behind Chelsea, and second in goal differential as well. 77 points, easily a club record, and just a really phenomenal season all around. Only 7 losses in the campaign, which was joint lowest with Manchester United. 8 draws, 23 wins, so an incredible win ratio. We did very, very well. We can see Chelsea won the league. Arsenal, Manchester United will be the other 2 clubs joining us in the Champions League next year. Tottenham Hotspur, after winning the league last year in Season 1 of the career, they will be back in the Europa League alongside Manchester City and Stoke City, who will be in the Europa League just due to the way the cup worked out, and we'll go over that in just a little bit. So we move down the table. You can see Liverpool, Everton, disappointing seasons by their standards, 8th and 9th respectively. Of course, Everton were in, I think, 3rd somewhere around January, so really disappointing for them to fall off the pace. But that is how the cookie crumbles there. Newcastle and Aston Villa, mid-table. I'm sure they're happy to just be in the Premier League in this career. Bournemouth in 12th. Really good for them to still be up after 2 seasons. Very solid. They actually led the league with 18 draws, which is absurd, but kept them up. Hull City, Sunderland, West Brom, Leicester, they all, pretty comfortable, stayed up. But Crystal Palace had to fight to stay up on the last day. They actually won their last match of the season. They needed a win. They got it to leap over Norwich, who drew on the last day of the season, and unfortunately went down alongside Middlesbrough, and Queen's Park Rangers will be the teams relegated back to the Championship for next season. So that's how the Premier League looked. Before we get into the other leagues, we're going to take a look at just how individuals fared around the Premier League. So let's take a look at that now. And you can see Diego Costa did come home with the golden boot, unfortunately, for league leaders Chelsea. Dybala really led the pack for the majority of the season alongside Thomas Muller, but he got caught in the second half. Once Lacazette came in, Dybala kind of lost his lead striker role and turned more provider. So, unfortunately for Pal, he doesn't win the golden boot, but an unbelievable return nonetheless, 16 goals in his first campaign in the Premier League. Costa, Muller, we can see notable players. Kane had 14 goals. Rooney actually had a great campaign, 13 goals. Alexis Sanchez, Matt Jarvis for Leicester City, who we sold at the beginning of the year for I think $2.5 million. What a return they got from him. 11 goals certainly helped them to stay up. Lacazette, joint 11th in the league with 10 goals, and he only did that in half a season in the Premier League. Maybe not even half. I think he played maybe 14 games in the Premier League, and he had 10 goals, which is unbelievable of a return from him. Likes Giroud, Choupo-Moting at Newcastle. I don't think we have anyone else in the top 25, but great returns from our top 2 strikers. Assist-wise, really going to be a surprise here. Manuel Lanzini for us, joint 7th on the list with Boo from Bournemouth. 6 assists, really, really good return from Lanzini. As we go down the list here, you'll see the likes Stuart Downing, of course, former Hammer, Willian Oscar, a lot of guys you'd expect to see, Rooney. Dybala, joint 9th on the list with 5, did really, really well. And we'll see Dimitri Payet down here, joint 18th with 4 assists in the Premier League. So a couple of good players you expect. Payet, good to see him get on the list, but certainly not the kind of return we expected from him. Only 4 assists after an unbelievable campaign last year where he had double digits in both and was, in my opinion, Premier League player of the season. So disappointing from Demi, but not disappointing at all from Jack Butland. What a season he had. Goalkeeper of the year, player of the year in the Premier League. by the Games Review. 15 clean sheets, which was far and away the best in the Premier League. What a return from Jack Butland. He's been an absolute steal for us in about a season and a half that we've had him. He's been unbelievable. Struggled his first half season, but this year he really came into his own and was a fantastic keeper. So great return, of course, from Jack Butland. And as we move forward, we actually had a significant number of players here on the yellow card list. Keontae, second in the league with 11 yellow cards, so a lot of discipline from him. That just tells you how much of a hard tackling midfielder he really is. Winston Reed with 8 yellow cards as well to get him on the list. So a couple of players with some supplemental discipline. Leon Goretzka with 7 yellow cards as well, and he didn't even play a ton. So the real note here is James Tompkins, who, he didn't play very much at all. 2 red cards, so really negative. Obviously, as soon as he got into the match, he really wanted to make an impact being a West Ham Academy product through and through. So disappointing from James this year, but we know he'll bounce back if he is given the opportunity. So all in all, a really good Premier League campaign. We had some real standouts here that shown on the leaderboard. So let's take a look now around the rest of the world. And before we do that, we are going to take a look around England, of course. West Ham United ourselves winning the FA Cup, so a bit of silverware coming back to East London. Fantastic for us. We beat Manchester United in a very dramatic FA Cup final, so we will get silverware in that regard. As you can see, we go towards the Capital One Cup now. Arsenal actually took that home 2-0 over Chelsea. We went out in the round of 16, unfortunately, to Everton, but Arsenal bringing home the Capital One Cup. And because they brought home the Capital One Cup, this was our beginning of the year tournament, because Arsenal brought home the Capital One Cup, that's why you'll see the likes of Stoke City, etc. in Europe next year, the Europa League. As we move forward here, past the European Continental Shield, you can see Real Madrid won the Cup of Europe at the beginning of the season because they had won the Champions League last year. They beat Leverkusen, who were the Europa League holders. As we move forward, we'll see now the big daddy, the granddaddy of them all, you might say, would be the Champions League. And Bayern Munich beat Arsenal, who were looking for an interesting double. They would have had a Capital One Cup Champions League double, but they go down in penalties to Bayern Munich. So Bayern Munich do come away with the Champions League victory. Dramatic fashion. The first time Arsenal's been back to the Champions League final, maybe ever. What a drastic really disappointing run of form for them to finish that out after really dominating. You can take a look, 5-2, 4-0, 3-2 over Porto to get to the final. So really dominant run of form for them. Some notable things, we'll look at the English teams. Chelsea went out in the round of 16 to Sevilla. Arsenal did well, remember, when they got to the final. See the likes of PSG went out in the round of 16. Dortmund went out in the round of 16. Spurs went out in the round of 16 to cap their disappointing season. Real Madrid went to the semifinals. Barcelona actually went out in the round of 16 to Schalke, who then lost to Bayern, who went on to win the title, of course. So interesting there. Notable, United and Juventus, you'll remember from January we saw, they didn't even make it out of the group. But United made the most of that, and we will see right here. They absolutely made the most of that. Because as you can see, Manchester United won the Europa League, which obviously in real life would qualify them for the Champions League. I don't know how the game handles it, but they qualified either way because they're in 4th position. But United won the Champions League. They beat AC Milan in the final, so bringing some silverware back to Manchester, of course. Man City, we can see, went out in the round of 16 to Marseille. Juventus went out in the round of 16 to Benfica, so disappointing there. Watford, amazingly, you'll see, in the round of 16 before going out to eventual runners-up AC Milan, which is unbelievable. Reason being, Watford is in the championship. They got relegated, but they won the Capital One Cup last year, so they stayed in Europe and somehow were able to make it to the round of 16. Great performance from them. Atletico Madrid were in the semis because they dropped out of the Champions League as well. So a few notable teams in there, but Manchester United were the champions. And so now that we've seen the major leagues, we'll talk about around the world here. Argentinian League, of course, if you're interested. Australian League, Melbourne Victory came away with the title. Austria, Red Bull Salzburg ran away with it. Then you can see in Belgium, Standard Liège with a pretty dramatic victory over Club Brugge and Anderlecht, who were just behind. So Liège comes away with the win. Of course, the Chilean and Colombian leagues, if you're interested. In Denmark, Copenhagen actually beat out FC Midtjylland by 3 points. Disappointing for me. I'm a closet Midgetland supporter, of course, so disappointing for them to go down to the big boys of Copenhagen, but you have to give them credit where credit's due. In England, of course, we already discussed this, but we know Norwich, Middlesbrough, and Queen's Park Rangers are going down. Who will be coming up? We take a look here at the championship. Swansea City, 109 points. Southampton, 107 points. Derby, Watford, Fulham, and Sheffield Wednesday in the playoffs. So we'll see the likes of Swansea City and Southampton come back into the Premier League. And look at Swansea City, 76 goal differential. Absolute absurdity. So we'll see them coming back into the Premier League, and then either Derby, Watford, Fulham, or Sheffield Wednesday also coming up to the Premier League. If we go through the levels here, Millwall ran away with League One's title here, 105 points, so they'll be returning, unfortunately, to the Championship. Preston going up as well as another team from the playoff. League Two, you'll see Leyton Orient going up with Port Vale and Bristol Rovers, and then one of the likes of Wickham, Blackpool, Crewe Alexandra, and Gillingham will be going up as well. As we move on, France, PSG with a dramatic 3-point victory, winning Ligue 1. Just look at their goal difference. 19 goals against in 38 games. Absolute absurdity. Plus 71 goal difference for PSG, which is ridiculous. Lyon finished in second, amazingly, even despite us taking Lacazette off of their hands. So great performance from them. Marseille will be in the Champions League as well. We move forward here. Germany, Bayern, they run away with the Bundesliga. And this is even more incredible. 14 goals against in 34 matches played. Just ridiculous. 60 goal difference. They run away with it. Wolfsburg, Bayer Leverkusen, and Dortmund will also be in the Champions League there. So really good season from all of them, as you would expect. As we move forward here, in Italy, Inter actually won. So really down year for Juventus. Inter win the Serie A. Juventus come in second. Disappointing season, no doubt, for them. Milan in third, Roma in fourth, etc. So, Juventus lose Dybala. Maybe that was really the straw that broke their back. Korean League, of course, if you're interested. Mexican League, if you're interested. I actually watched, speaking of the Mexican League, I watched one of the Mexican League playoff games that they're playing recently. It was Tigres versus Monterrey. I'll tell you what, really intense stuff. But interestingly enough, Netherlands, obviously in the Dutch League, Ajax in the Eredivisie, end up defeating PSV. Very, very tight there, but you would expect Ajax to finish top, and they do. Norwegian League, Rosenborg win it. Of course, as we move on, the Polish League, Legia Warsaw. If you're going to pick someone to win these smaller leagues, that's more than likely who you're going to pick. Porto win the Portuguese League, knocking off Benfica. Sporting Lisbon, of course, just behind. So your typical top three that you would expect. Shamrock Rovers win in Ireland. So we move forward. Zenit come away with the title over Spartak Moscow, CSKA Moscow, Lokomotiv Moscow. All the Moscow teams finish behind Zenit, so Zenit do win the title. Saudi Arabian League, if you're interested, actually is level, but Al Hilal wins it. Scottish League, Aberdeen knock off Celtic, incredibly enough. So, good on Aberdeen, taking Celtic away. They win the league every single year, so someone's finally knocked them off their perch. Good performance there. Moving on to La Liga, Real Madrid with a 4-point victory over Barcelona. So neither team takes home any kind of European hardware, but Real Madrid do win La Liga with a really good performance. You'll note Atletico Madrid down in 7th position, so really disappointing from them in spite of a good goal difference of plus 34, but they really, really struggled to do anything in the table. So no, at least Champions League football for Atletico next year. The Swedish League, Malmo, if you're interested. Swiss League, Basel, kind of run away with it as they usually do. Turkish League, Galatasaray just dominated the league throughout the entire season and win the title there. And then in the United States, see how things are going. And of course, ironically enough, I don't necessarily have a horse in this fight because I don't live in any of these cities, but the two teams that I would be most likely to be affiliated with, New York City FC, who's the team that I support, bringing up the rear, and the other team I would be most likely to go to would be the Union, just because of personal ties to Philadelphia, and they're bringing up the bottom of the table, so disappointing there, no doubt. But that's how things finished throughout the world. And so to wrap this up, we are going to do a squad report, of course. I'm going to go through once here quickly just to show everybody's rankings, and then we're going to look at the stats as well. But really, really good season overall. We have a lot of depth, which I think is fantastic. I think we just need to get a few world-class type players in this summer if we will have the funds to do so that we'll be able to compete not only on a league level, which we know we have that kind of ability, but on a Champions League level as well. So we look at the team. Butland, 21 clean sheets over the entire season. 8 average rating. He was unbelievable, so really good season from him. Of course, Randolph was a very solid deputy as well in the Capital One Cup. Vanderveel, I thought, was a fantastic free transfer. 1 goal over the whole season, but was very, very solid from right back. Iorfa, he's unhappy because he wants more money. I mean, you're a backup. Relax, buddy. But he had a really good season deputizing. I think he's one for the future for sure. Ogbonna and Reed were a fantastic partnership with Reese Oxford just developing fantastically, so hopefully he'll get more game time. Tompkins had a really rough season, but always a good deputy if we need him, and then we do have some depth. Aaron Cresswell, he had a goal and 2 assists, so good to see Aaron finally get back in our good books. He struggled at the beginning of the season. Medine had to deputize for him, and he actually played quite a bit, but Aaron did really well as the season went on. Kiyate, of course, a stalwart in central midfield. 5 goals and 5 assists. What a player he is. He just runs around so much energy, and he was so solid. Partnered typically with Marquis Noble, of course. We got Andre Carrillo. He bounced back after what looked to be a really subpar season. He was hurt for a couple of months, missed a lot of time, but he did really well late on and got himself up to 6 goals in the Premier League, 4 assists, 6 and 6 overall. So not a bad return from Carrillo. Marquis Noble, what else can you say about him? 32 matches in the Premier League, 6 goals, 3 assists, 7.1 rating, 7.2 for the whole season. He was absolutely unbelievable. 7 goals, 4 assists across the campaign. So, Mark Noble, I mean, one of the players of the season, no doubt. Definitely wasn't expecting that from him. I expected Gorska to come in and, relegate Noble to the bench. He didn't necessarily live up to the hype. He struggled a bit in the Premier League. He found his feet towards the end of the season, but he definitely has room to improve, and we could even see him bump further down the pecking order because I want to bring in a star CDM, to be honest. Some more depth, of course. Danny Ceballos. He ended up with 5 goals and 3 assists in 20 matches, but you can see by his average rating, he just did not live up to the hype at all. So we might be looking to move him on in the summer, get a fair bit of change in, and use that to bring in some really talented players. So let me know what you think, who I should replace Danny Ceballos with if we are able to do that. Mikel Antonio, he was unbelievable. I'll tell you what. He was a player that, for most of the season, underwhelmed, didn't get a ton of chances, but when he got in, especially against the likes of Manchester United, he dominated. 3 goals, 4 assists, 4 and 6 over the whole campaign. He was really, really solid. He actually got a starting winger spot over, the higher-rated Carrillo for quite a bit of time. Aldair, 2 goals, 5 assists, not a bad campaign. He did well in the FA Cup, but we look to see more out of him. Of course, his ratings are really going up. His technicals, you can see, are sublime, but I hope he gets some more pace. His sprint speed went up +8, which was great, so hopefully we see more of that. Lanzini, 4 goals, 6 assists in the Premier League, but you'll see by his average rating, didn't overwhelm me, to be honest. It was a great return, goals and assists-wise, but I had no idea it was that high because, to be honest, he didn't impress me this season, so we'll see what we can do with him next year. He might stay in the team. He might not. It just depends if we get any bids for him. Payet, 7 goals, 7 assists, but you'll remember he did have a hat trick in one particular match in the FA Cup. So take that away, and it's a bit more of a subdued season from Dimitri. He struggled in the Premier League. We played him out of position a lot. I don't know if they have him listed that he can play. Yeah, he can play left mid, and that's where we played him a lot of the season, but he just didn't have the pace to fit in our system out there, so we might have to do some tinkering. We shall see if he'll get his return back to his favorite central midfield spot. Masana went on loan. Teo, I thought, was fantastic. It was really unfortunate that he tore his groin and has been out for quite some time because he had 4 assists in his first 8 appearances. Did really, really well. Like the way he's looking. Of course, Lacazette, what more can you say about him? 12 goals in 16 appearances overall, 10 and 13 in the Premier League, and 2 assists. So he's just an absolute superstar. What a deal we got him for. $25 million plus morale, so around about $35 million. He's just an unbelievable player. Dybala, 17 goals, 5 assists in 39 total matches, 16 in 36 in the Prem. Kind of dropped off towards the end of the year, but can you blame him with the likes of Lacazette getting in red-hot form? Only one person can score at once, and unfortunately for Dybala, that was Lacazette, but still an unbelievable season from the Argentine. Sacco, he had 8 goals, 4, though, came in the Capital One Cup. In the Premier League, he really struggled, and, guys don't make their living playing in the Capital One Cup, so he might be someone that we could be moving on next year for. I have a couple ideas in mind of who I would want to have as sort of a second-choice striker behind Lacazette and Dybala, so we shall see what we'll do there. Gabriel, I thought, was really good. Only goal and 2 assists, but I thought he actually impressed me a lot. His Capital One Cup ring, of course, is bringing things down, but he was actually solid, so if I can bring him back on loan maybe next year, we might be interested in that. Callum Wilson, 1 goal in 13 matches. I mean, what can you say? He's on his way out of the club. Just struggled this season. Unfortunately, he looks to be out. So that is the team, of course, a report. Let me know who you thought our player of the season was, like I said, who our best players were, who our worst players were, who would you sell, and who should I bring in? They'll go on the shortlist. You suggest them, they'll go on the shortlist. Like I said, I'm looking for a CDM. That's my main priority. But a backup striker would be really solid, and maybe any other position you guys see fit. But thank you so much for watching. Be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and remember, tune in because we now have our 3 goal of the season nominees coming up right now. So enjoy.
Here trying to give Antonio praise, and I have to go back to Butland. He's been unbelievable. Noble now in the 75th minute. Noble! He's hit an absolute screamer. Mark Noble with the goal of the season. Send away the voting. We don't need to turn in any cue cards, any kind of vote. We're not having a primary. We're not having a nomination process. It's over. Noble's won the goal of the season. That is a scorcher off the post and in, left-footed nonetheless, past arguably the best goalkeeper in the Premier League and maybe in the world. What a screamer from Noble. He just boshes it over the top of David De Gea. The Spain keeper has no chance at all, and our skipper's got his second of the goal against Chelsea in that 1-0 victory. And does he have a chance here? 34 yards up, free kick. Lacazette, it's a screamer, and it's in the back of the net. Alexander Lacazette opens his account in this matchup in just the 6th minute with a free kick that I don't think I did nearly enough justice to. That is a screamer from 34 yards out. Payet-esque, dare I say. He curls it into the top corner. Tim Howard does get a hand to it, but it's inch perfect, and he's not keeping that out. What a goal from the Frenchman. Lacazette. It's an absolute rocket into the top corner. Curls it in perfectly. Had more curl on it than a schoolgirl's hair. I don't know. I'm just coming up with things here. But another chance then in the 9th minute. Lacazette from 25 yards out. 4 goals in his last 3 matches, so he's or 3 or 4 matches, so he's really come out of nowhere. But Dybala, he's hit an absolute screamer. I want to do that justice. What a finish from Paulo Dybala. It's come out of absolutely nothing. We just talked about how well Carrillo's been playing, but that guy Dybala with goal of the season material. Queens Park Rangers throw the ball in. Antonio wins the header actually from the throw-in. Dybala takes 1 touch and just boshes it from range on the half volley, loops it over the head of Rob Green. That is a stunning goal. I mean, Mark Noble had what I thought was goal of the season against Manchester United earlier. This could top it. That goal from
like we always do with this time. I got to shine.